Development, marketing, advertising, public relations, and media consultancy, strategy planning, assessment, procurement, re-engineering solutions, planning audits.
You're watching Camnet Main News. We apologize for bringing the news a bit late. This was due to a technical fault. However, we are here. We look at the stories making headlines in our news. Lusaka couple assault each other over a 20 kwacha. PF acknowledges being behind the destruction of a UPND office in Lusaka's KAMANGA area. And slow pace of NRC issuance exercise annoys CHUNGA residents. In international news, Sudan's government rebel groups sign landmark deal. Finally, in sports news, PATSON MWEPU to Miss Kenya, South Africa matches. Join me shortly for the details. Join us on the 9th of October 2020
for the National Matters Conference in Kitwe. Venue: Living Water Global Church in Wusakile, opposite Wusakile Police Station. Time: 08 hours to 17 hours. Theme: Unlocking Zambia's potential through raising a generation of generational thinkers. Charges: 510 kwacha, lunch inclusive. Please note that any payments done after Wednesday the 7th of October or on the actual day of the event will attract a penalty fee of 200 kwacha. Speakers will be Dr. Collins Kachaka.
If you have a 3 liters per second, then we say in science that you qualify to get involved in fish farming because you have adequate water.
Dr. Mushalika.
Don't over-listen to people who are happy to see you poor. They don't mean any good for us. There are no people who are developed by others. All people develop themselves.
Dr. Prosper Sievu, Engineer Bernard Chuala.
You are welcome so that we can create a critical mass of participants in the avocado industry. 1 hectare in 12 months will give you no less than 1 million kwacha. Hello?
Mr. Himbai.
You planted a deep-rooted plant into a shallow-rooted, so where is it getting the nutrients? Nowhere. So that plant, it will not give you the potency. You have failed at land preparation.
Mr. Salanda.
All of them lay eggs. You can use them for eggs and also for meat. They lay at least in a year a minimum of, with the lowest, a minimum of 100 chickens each.
All the dyes, all the paints, all the lubricants, they come from a plant called castor. 34% of our medicinal elements, they come from a castor root.
Not forgetting your host, Pastor Victoria and Moses Chidova.
Mwebantu mweshitisha land. Mwebantu mweshitisha land. Nami papat. It is unthinkable.
Take note, limited numbers due to COVID-19 restrictions. Make your payments through Airtel Mobile Money on 0979 75 3010 or on MTN Mobile Money on 0962 38 25 35 or 0962 96 5883.
Really been impacting on so many levels.
This was really powerful, and I'm glad I didn't miss this one.
This conference has been wonderful in the sense that the knowledge that we've acquired within a day is so much overwhelming.
Should this conference come to Western Province, I urge them all to come en masse.
I didn't know that there's potential in me, and wealth was lying right where I was.
The way to go right now is agriculture.
The knowledge that we have gathered out of this meeting is immeasurable.
Harry, don't miss this life-changing conference.
This is Camnet Main News. Welcome to our desk. A couple of Lusaka's Kanyama compound has assaulted each other over a 20 kwacha. Friday Nyambe Hambili explains that her husband, Ernest Hambili, has been beating her over a period of time whenever she reminds him over the provision of food for the family. The couple, which has been married for over 14 years now, is said to have been fighting whenever they pick up a small misunderstanding. Details in this report.
Times are hard. The economy is biting, and this is everywhere one goes across the country. The economic challenges have now entered into people's homes, and the unlucky marriages are folding. Not long ago, a man of Lusaka recently abandoned his wife who gave birth to triplets on account that he can't manage to take care of his children due to poverty. Now, the latest is a couple of Lusaka's Kanyama compound who have assaulted each other over a meager 20 kwacha. Wife to the man, Friday Nyambe Hambili, explains the source of their fights.
Kuti tifike pakugwirana patupinkani nayambira mazo pali 20 kwacha. Iyo 20 kwacha vananipasa kuti nyachani isungi. Na bwana inyamula 20 kwacha nayo ku market. Ndiyo amene inagula ya 20 kwacha iyo vananuza ati after abadya simanoza ati kuli benjio zamene zasala na tandio zachita bwanji zasila nendo kula chicken ya 14 kwacha na kulamona mara cha 5 kwacha abanapo kuchosera weda kwati suzi ba budget ndiwe chipuwa benzeru na pani munani kwatira bolfika this time nganoona kuti ni benzeru kuti ndine chikwasenzi bopanga budget panapo kamba banza kwa mapanga budget muli 5 kwacha i 20 kwacha ungaidye muli almost 4 days na kama ti ndrama amene muchitabwa ine mukabate konse ndrama ni ngono maningi ukafika ku market ibabisa mutu.
It seems Mr. Hambili is in a habit of only leaving a 20 kwacha for the entire family budget.
Mailo food natenga 20 kwacha nzi banani sila naenda nayo ku market naona time na saa bana balira njara ndemwe ina nyamkulenda ku market before nikalipoenda ku market nabauza ndemba kwa ndrama ya safu bananipasa 5 kwacha ya safu 5 kwacha wanatenga kutiba kwelele naenda ku market nina gula ndiyo na bwela na mopika pamene banabwela banangena mnyumba naye kwanza kwa naenda sinaende bwino ndrama ina kuza so much so moja mkabo muli 25 kwacha so usangaze pamozi na chani na ndrama amene uli na nata ndrama ya amene nina na chitabwanji ne na sevensa kugula njiyo ndiye problem ya amene yani uli na heavy sunga niyembekeza kuti ni bwina tona ni time ya chitabwanji time yaenda bana funika kudya.
She passionately explains that her husband never buys her any clothes, including underwears.
Kuchoka mwina kwatiliwa mulibe mtende bavoma so mulinkezi bakamba na girlfriend nawo mvera ukakamba kwa nangandiwe mkazi pamene uli hapo so da chamene niyo pako chikulo muna kumenya kwa chilambo kunimenya
bati mwanga yokonda muna bana
nezo bakonda bati vichitidwe apa nale nezo bakonda bati kunimenya kwa mama nimenya ndiye kwestigulizana na bebe na kusabu nigulira vo sometimes so that vo vara vo nikupembelera.
This explanation was in the presence of Mr. Hambili, who at the time was still nursing a bloody face after being given a beating of his life by his emotionally charged wife.
Awe danda uranga mwana ili mdala nizofuna upempa cheuti kankari doane tinkara sikanomo suna ruvyanye suna chose mao abwero pinda mukafutia jamaona yeye wanuza mao yaso uzani paya mairo basaka pesa ndiwe chitumbi tankara maezi yangati nawe muntu pauti lero ngati zile kwa mpaya kunyumba kulibana kuti kawe nasakira mwana akandara maona apa mwene ili niyo kosa tiye tikasebenzese as usual kudya nsima sinyama yoka waenda kuja wagulako chiwabwa cha 5 wagulako na tonshaba bana bazazi bazashita enjoy.
In the end, this report engineered a reconciliation between this couple, and from the look of things, the words could have sunk in the mind of the man who took a step to hug his wife with some whispering words of I'm sorry. In all this, it is clear that poverty has become deep-rooted in the lives of many in Zambia. Kalan Muchima reporting for Camnet News in Lusaka.
Interesting story there. Our reporter playing the role of counselor between those two couples. Moving on in the news, meanwhile, concerned Citizens for Justice and Human Rights Corporate Operations Manager Frederick Liteta is concerned with the continued acts of gender-based violence in the country. Mr. Liteta has since called on government to ensure that perpetrators of such acts are given stiffer punishment to deter would-be offenders.
Gender-based violence are still on rise. So we need some concerted efforts. Together with you people from the media, we work together, and the state should also come on board so that we can win this fight. You have heard a couple fighting over 20 kwacha. What is a budget? A budget started when they got together in their matrimonial home. If I'm to quote the matrimonial causes, 73 of 2011, when the two are together, the planning was made on the first day. Whenever it is month end, that's when you put up that budget. Now when you bring a 20 kwacha today for 6 children at home plus the wife herself, it's not enough. We are there to provide, not the woman to provide. It's us men to provide the services at home. So please, let's get on the ground to see to it that such issues are brought down.
Opposition United Party for National Development UPND President Hakainde Hichilema has condemned in the strongest terms any acts of violence. Mr. Hichilema says Zambia currently does not need hooliganism but ways of bettering the economy. He says Zambians across the country are looking forward to a leadership that will give them hope for a better future and not one which prides itself in violence. Mr. Hichilema said this on Sunday afternoon after touring a vandalized UPND office in Lusaka's Kamanga area. But Patriotic Front PF Lusaka Province Chairman Paul Monga explains that youths from his party did what they did in retaliation. The PF destroyed the UPND party office after the launch of their 2021 campaigns in Munale constituency Saturday.
The color and writings are very clear on which organization owns this place. On Saturday, Patriotic Front PF members destroyed the UPND office and water point in Lusaka's Kamanga area within Munali constituency. This place provides water to the people of the area who draw the commodity from here. Party President Hakainde Hichilema Sunday afternoon visited the destroyed place with a call against destruction and violence.
What Zambians want is food. What Zambians want is jobs. What Zambians want is businesses, not destruction, not violence. PF has shown us that they don't care for you, the people of Chakunkula. People of Kamanga, people of Chainda, they don't care for you. In addition to not caring for you, they start damaging property, they start beating innocent people.
Mr. Hichilema says people need development and not violence.
This country has no leadership. Yes. People in this country are suffering. People have no jobs. Families have no money to feed their children. Those who completed college are not working. They have no jobs. What families eat, I don't know. Some families eat once a day.
He further had this to say.
I helped the people of Kamanga, Charleston with this borehole 11 years ago. That's when I came to build this facility here 11 years ago. Because I answered the call of the people who had no water, our mothers, our sisters who had no water. And they've been benefiting as a community from this water. And the PF, instead of improving this water supply, they damage it. That is hooliganism. That is failure of leadership. So to show you leadership, not violence, I am committing that in the next few days I and you, the local community, will repair this borehole, will repair this.
Community members have since joined in ensuring that this place is worked on soonest, but ruling Patriotic Front PF Lusaka Province Chairman Paul Monga in an interview justifies this act on the basis that it's the UPND who first attacked his party's constituency office in Munali.
Yesterday we were provoked while we were having a meeting in Munali. The UPND went to attack our ward office in Champura and destroyed it. And when our people heard the news, they retaliated, which is undetectable as well. They went also to go and destroy UPND office.
Violence, regardless of who starts it, is wrong, and the act should be condemned. Kalan Muchima reporting for Camnet News in Lusaka.
The United Teachers Union of Zambia, UNITAS, has called for the opening up of negotiations for the improved conditions of service for teachers, among them salaries. Union Executive President Paul Chipimo says this is the best reward that government can give to the teachers as they commemorate their day tomorrow, 5th October 2020. Collective bargaining for conditions of service for teachers is usually done in December, but Mr. Chipimo says there is no need to wait for December to improve teacher conditions. Every year, teachers celebrate their day on the 5th of October.
The United Teachers Union of Zambia calls for opening of negotiations for improved salaries and conditions of service for teachers. This is the best award government can give to teachers on this year's World Teachers Day, which falls on 5th October 2020. There is no need to wait to December 2020. COVID-19 cases are low, Parliament is open, and the budget was presented. There is an urgent need to speed up this process in order to address some of the challenges the teachers are facing. Happy World Teachers Day.
The Lusaka City Council has banned any form of cooking stands in the Central Business District CBD. LCC Public Relations Manager George Sichemba explains that the action taken by the local authority is aimed at improving food hygiene and prevent diarrheal diseases such as cholera, especially during the rainy season, which is just around the corner. Mr. Chimba says the council notes with concern the rise in mounted cooking stands across the CBD, especially along Freedom Way, Lumumba and Chachacha roads. He says the practice poses a public health risk, stating that these sources of food are not certified and do not meet minimum standards of food hygiene. Mr. Sichimba further explains that 2 weeks ago, the council engaged the vendors in this illegal act and promised to cooperate, but they have not done so, hence the council moving in.
I wish to confirm that Lusaka City Council in the early hours of today swung into action in CBD to remove all the cooking stands in there. You may be aware that some people have been setting up stands on the islands of Freedom Way and on the sides of Lumumba Lane so that they can be cooking and selling food to unsuspecting clients there. But as you are aware, we are entering into the rain season and diarrheal diseases become common. And as Lusaka City Council, we have heightened the issue of inspecting and to make sure that people that are channeling out food are observing food hygiene. And so 2 weeks ago, we moved in and sensitized these people, but they are not stopping. And so council has no option but to move in and remove all the stands. We want to appeal to members of the public that this season they should not be that careless to buy food from unlicensed outlets. Everybody should buy food from shops that are licensed and restaurants that are licensed.
Keep watching Camnet Main News. Just now we'll take a break. Stay with us.
I have used Oracle Pure Glycerin for 2 years now. It has really worked for me. It has cleared all the black spots on my face. It has restored my skin beauty. It also smoothens the skin. Try Oracle Pure Glycerin for perfect skin. If it's not Oracle Glycerin, then it's not Pure Glycerin.
Stay home, stay safe. Times have changed. With the advent of the coronavirus, Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company would like to advise its esteemed customers to avoid visiting crowded places. You don't have to move to pay your water bill. You can do it in the convenience of your home. You can pay your water bills through Zanaco Zapit, Stanbic Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, and FNB. You can also use Airtel, MTN, and Zamtel Kwacha mobile money transfer services. For any inquiries to report a fault, please contact our customer service on +260 211 251 571, +260 975 618 618, and toll-free line 5957, Zamtel only. You can also simply email customerservice@lwsc.com. This public announcement is brought to you by the Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company. Water is life. Sanitation is health.
Welcome back. We continue with the news. Residents of Lusaka's Chunga townships have bemoaned the slow pace at which the national registration officers are issuing NRCs under phase 2 of the mobile national registration exercise. Some guardians and parents spoken to told Camnet TV News that they arrived at Nelson Mandela School early as 06 hours, and by 16:30 there was no hope that they would be attended to. By broadcast time, the center was characterized by long queues. Today marks 2 weeks since the second phase commenced in Lusaka, Southern and Central provinces. Details in this report. The issuance of national registration cards through the mobile national issuance has continued to raise debate as a result of what people are calling the slow pace of issuance of this important document. In the second phase, Lusaka, Southern and Central provinces commenced this process 2 weeks ago. With that said, Chunga residents in Lusaka are saddened at the pace at which the NRCs are being given. The people spoken to say they have spent close to 8 hours on the queue without being attended to. Sharon Kalimbula, Camnet News, Lusaka. Meanwhile, Patriotic Front Lusaka Province Youth Leader Daniel Kalembe has advised party youths to obtain NRCs in the ongoing mobile issuance of NRCs. Mr. Kalembe tells the youths that an NRC is a very important national document that will allow them to participate in the forthcoming general elections in 2021. Speaking during the launch of the party's mobilization campaigns in Lusaka's Kabwata constituency on Sunday, Mr. Kalembe explains that the Patriotic Front can only record success in the 2021 general elections if eligible candidates register as voters by starting with the acquisition of the national registration cards.
Natukwate inonsto turimo yama NRC registration. So imwe bonse mwe bashikweta marriage imeni kabie ni mwe musenda marriage. Olo imwe bonse mwe bakweta marriage imeni no kusenda banenu bonse abo bashikwete mwe mukupoka marriage. Gachakweba na mufirwa uko akuyasendera marriage office yesu lili open. Twala myafuirisha. Twala mya nafuirisha pakutumia musenga mareji kasendenya mareji na ifwe tukabalange echo Lusaka ivota tilapinofo bachita kumwabo kutundu mwezi na ifwe tukabalange kuno kwebati na ifwe PF yafyarirwe mu Lusaka olota twakayirekereshe tukayapye nayo vision ya masata takwalina ngumoka yonaula tuleya fye nayo onsa abafuma balabwera batusanga tuleya fye nayo bantu ekintu bali tushila tuleeni nakyo ekyo ndemye bakumwimisepera.
In other news, swift intervention by Ron Member of Parliament Joseph Chishala and Luansha Mayor Nathan Chanda has seen the release of several workers who were forcibly quarantined by China Non-Ferrous Metals Mining Company in Luansha. The workers went into forced quarantine 5 months ago as the company was trying to curb the spread of the COVID-19. The workers were released on Saturday after combined efforts by key stakeholders who include the Ministry of Labour officials led by Permanent Secretary Chanda Kazia. When the officials arrived at the company, most Chinese workers bolted the premises, leaving it deserted. The PS later released all the workers and has called for a meeting with the management at the company Monday 5th October 2020 to understand the idea behind locking up people for such a long time. The abuse of Zambians by Chinese nationals is not reducing, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic, an outbreak that took time for people to understand its intricacies. The fear of contracting the disease, most Chinese companies resolved to locking their workforce in the warehouse until the pandemic was contained. This meant that workers would stay for months without seeing their families. Some time back, it was Sinoma Cement in Lusaka South where it was reported that workers were locked up for fear of spreading the COVID-19. This time around, it was CNMC Luansha Copper Mines, a Chinese mining company, that had its workers locked up for at least 5 months. But much to their plea, Ron Member of Parliament intervened by engaging the Ministry of Labour, and before that he asked the Vice President directly before the floor of Parliament. It was until then that the Ministry decided to act and release the workers yesterday. Labour Permanent Secretary Chanda Kazia urged the company to follow the labour laws in this country. The workers left in jubilation with renewed hope for better working conditions. Sharon Kalimbula, Camnet News, Lusaka. The Kasama Subordinate Court has convicted and fined Gerald Chishimba Ngonga, aged 34, of Chitamba village in Kasama district of Northern Province for offering healthcare services without approval from the Health Professions Council of Zambia. The suspect was apprehended by a team of Zambia police officers after a compliance monitoring exercise by the Health Professions Council of Zambia in September for practicing and offering healthcare services as a health practitioner when not registered as such with HPCZ. Gerald Chishimba Ngonga was found guilty and convicted on Tuesday, September 22, 2020, and fined 10,000 kwacha, in default of which he will serve 6 months of simple imprisonment. In the media statement issued to Camnet TV by HPCZ Senior Registrar and Chief Executive Officer, Mbyawalia has since advised health practitioners countrywide against practicing without being duly registered and licensed and against operating unlicensed health facilities. He says public health safety is critical in healthcare provisions. Zambia has in the last 24 hours recorded 78 new positive cases of COVID-19 out of 2,792 tests done. The country has further recorded 98 recoveries without any deaths. The cumulative number of COVID-19 cases now stands at 15,052, while deaths still stand at 112. Meanwhile, government says it has wrapped up testing for COVID-19 in recent weeks. The Ministry Ministry of Health explains that the increase in testing capacity can be seen in the number of tests conducted in the last 24 hours, with over 2,500 tests done. The ministry further reveals that testing has been decentralized, with more districts acquiring COVID-19 testing capabilities through increased platforms for testing, such as Gen Expert machines used for testing TB and also being used for COVID-19 testing. You're watching Camnet News. We take a break, but still to come is international and sports news. Keep watching.
To create a positive difference in people's lives, one must first understand the way people live. At Savenda, we're here for our community, our partners, and our future, as a nation and as a continent.
Back in 1997, we decided we were going to create this family journey into a bigger opportunity, and created a business called Savenda, which meant Save Nations to Develop Africa.
It's always important to give back to the people. The government cannot do everything, but as business entities, we'll be able to reach a lot of people.
From our humble beginnings in the telecoms and mining sectors to our work in energy and development projects, we know how important it is to be true to our roots.
Our services have to be diversified so that we don't depend on one income stream. Back in the village, I was growing up hunting and doing everything that a village boy would like to do. When you're hunting, you don't depend on one trap, for example. You have to have many traps. So those survival skills brought into the business created opportunities that we learned from a young age that you can't survive with just one product. Savenda Group involves Savenda Management, which is a consulting, Savenda Express, which is a corporate branding company, Savenda Electric, which is a manufacturer of energy-saving bulbs, Savenda General Insurance, which is a general insurance company, Savenda Fresh Produce, Cyber Africa, which is a center for just dealing with cyber security.
Now, Savenda is combining local knowledge with international expertise. It's time to be a part of Zambia's rising success and Africa's exciting future.
We are a gateway into Africa, and now we are praying with global companies who are coming to Zambia for opportunities and to look for companies that are homegrown, and we are proud to be one of those.
Welcome back. We now look at international news. Sudan's transitional government and several rebel groups have signed a peace agreement aimed at resolving years of war in which hundreds of thousands of people died and millions displaced in different regions across the country. Cheers rang out as representatives from the government and the coalition of armed groups called the Sudanese Revolutionary Front signed the deal on Saturday, a year after the peace talks began at a ceremony in Juba, the capital of neighboring South Sudan. The guarantors of the deal from Chad, Qatar, Egypt, and African Union, European Union, and United Nations also put their names to the agreement. However, two powerful rebel groups, the Darfur-based Sudan Liberation Movement, faction led by Abdawid Mohammed, and the Sudan People's Liberation Movement, North, led by Abdelaziz Al-Hilo, did not sign, reflecting the challenges still facing the peace process. Last month, Al-Hilal struck a separate deal with the government agreeing to truce until Sudan's constitution is changed to separate religion and government. Al Jazeera has more on this story.
Sudan's peace agreement is signed. A month after the initial agreement, more celebrations in Juba, the capital of South Sudan, which helped broker peace for their neighbors. Sudan's transitional administration and the liberation movement led by Minni Minnawi, as well as the coalition known as the Sudan's Revolutionary Front, all signed. The deals aimed at ending conflicts in various parts of Sudan, including the western region of Darfur.
For our country to get out of conflicts, this peace deal should have a stable ground and should be able to include all armed groups and the victims of war. The political base should be expanded and the transitional government should keep the transitional period. That will make this agreement different from any previously signed agreements. The peace agreement we've signed addresses all stakeholders, including refugees, displaced people and victims of conflict all over the country, especially those in Darfur. I urge everyone to support this peace because it is of you and for you. This peace will grant you security to return home and start a new life. It will pave the way for new relations between Sudan and South Sudan.
The deal signed was watched by regional and international dignitaries, including representatives from Qatar, the UAE and Chad's President Idriss Deby, who also serve as guarantors to the deal. The groups, some armed, opposed the previous government of Omar al-Bashir, who was overthrown in April last year. The deal gives the groups 3 seats in the Sovereignty Council and a quarter of the seats in the Executive Council of the Transitional Government. It also grants more power to local governments and self-autonomy to the southern states of Blue Nile and South Kordofan. The resources of the states will be shared between the local and federal government. It also paves way for the formation of a transitional legislative assembly.
On this historic day, we reiterate that we will not go back to war and we will not stray from the path of peace. And we reiterate that we will implement all that has been agreed upon in terms of security and national and political issues. This deal will support the transitional government and give its spirit to help the country in its transition.
The deal restarts Sudan's 39-month transitional period towards democratic rule, and it stipulates the integration of forces of the armed groups into Sudan's army, but some armed groups are yet to sign the peace deal. Sudan's transitional government and the armed groups say the deal paves way for economic and political stability of not just the country but the region, and Sudan's leaders say there is the will to make the deal work. Hiba Morgan, Al Jazeera.
We now look at sports news. In sports news, the Zambian duo PATSON and MWEPU are set to miss Chipolopolo's friendly matches against Kenya and South Africa. Red Bull Salzburg have enforced a team quarantine and will not release players for international duty after 3 tested positive for COVID-19. The club says positive results came after their Champions League playoff with Maccabi Tel Aviv on Wednesday. The Austrian club explained the players who have tested negative will only travel between their house, the training grounds and the match locations. Israeli side Maccabi had 11 players missing for their 3-1 playoff defeat by Salzburg because of the coronavirus. The story is courtesy of Zamfoot. On that note, we end this evening's bulletin, but before we go, let's just look at the headlines. Lusaka couple assault each other over 20 kwacha. And the PF acknowledges being behind the destruction of a UPND office in Lusaka's Kamanga area. Slow pace of NRC issuance exercise annoys CHUNGA residents. In international news, Sudan's government rebel groups sign landmark deal. And sports news, PATSON MWEPU to miss Kenya and South Africa matches. We now look at the Camnet verse for the day, and it's coming from the book of Romans 8:28, and it reads, "And we know that in all things God works for good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." That's it. That's all we could accommodate for you on the news desk. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Sharon Kalimula. Good night.